Folks, a massive welcome to the Pipe Band Drumming YouTube channel. Alan White and myself talk about drum rolls all the time, and we both get asked often, hey, how do you read that drum roll in pipe band drumming notation? So today we are going to attempt to explain the basics and the not so basics of how to read drum rolls. Isn't that right, Alan?
Yeah, we're gonna go for one of the most complex parts of pipe band notation I've found, especially for folks who are maybe no music notation, and then they come to the pipe band discipline and they go, what? Right?
It's going to be a ton of fun. And while you're here, folks, on the YouTube channel, take a moment, please, and hit subscribe and a little notification bell. And also, for those that don't know, Alan is the founder and creator of Drum Score Editor. So if you go down in the description below, you'll see that I've got a link to Drum Score Editor, so you can go and actually check out the software that Alan uses to write music. Today, we're going to be using hands and writing on whiteboards here, but Alan has created this amazing software. So I urge you to go click the link and check it out for sure. So Alan, let's have a bit of fun. Where should we start?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe I always like to start, folks say to me, tell me about rolls. I say, great, let's talk about time signatures. They go, yep. What? Why do we need to talk about time signatures? Because it's fundamental to how you interpret what you see on the page in front of you, is understanding a few basic things like, how many beats should there be in that bar, right? How does each beat break down? What note value represents a whole beat? What represents part of a beat? And that's part of for me, the set of clues you get. It's like for me, it's like a great big game of translation, foreign languages. It's kind of like, what does this mean? How do I translate what I'm seeing there to what my brain needs to know, right? How do I understand what's on the page? So that it's a series of clues. And the first clue is in that time signature. So you'll find that, whenever we want to talk about writing some music, I will typically go like this and go, hey, that's a bar of music. And by the way, it's in 2/4 time, right? So that we're absolutely sure what we're talking about here, that we're talking about a 2/4. There's another type that we're going to talk about, because there's always two types, just to make things really awkward. And this says 2/4 and 6/8, but there's a big difference between that. Both of them say there's two beats in the bar, and we can cover the theory as to why it says that. But the important thing that this says to me, one is what's called a simple time, and the other is called compound time, right? And this is simple up here, and this is compound. Now, what does that actually mean? What does simple and compound mean? Well, the really, really easy rule of thumb to remember there is that simple means that the notes in a beat divide by 2 easily, right? There's 2 subdivisions of that note, as it's called. Down here, it's divide by 3. So if you think about a standard 6/8 march and the cut that maybe you've heard, you'll hear that there's always, if it's a march, you've always got tut 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 tut, that dot and cut sort of feel to a march they get there. But there's three subdivisions there: 1 2 3 1 2 3, or a jig 1 2 3 1 2 3. That's compound time. It's breaking down into 3 natural subdivisions of the note. Whereas take one of your big marches like Highland Wedding, your dum dim dum, that's 1 2 1 2, and that's breaking down naturally into two beats in the bar. Excuse my singing there, by the way, if I destroyed it.
It was beautiful.
Listening to Highland Wedding again, they'll never hear the same thing, right? But this is a really important concept to just file in the back of the head at the moment, to say that okay, so sometimes my note breaks down into 2, sometimes it breaks down into 3 naturally, right? And I think that's probably all we need to do on time signature theory to set us up for the roll notation at the moment. There's a lot more we could do on time signature theory, as you well know, but that's the salient bits, I think, for this conversation. What do you reckon?
Yeah, definitely. And I think for anybody that's thinking of quarter notes or crotchets, so if you look at the 2/4, so your one beat in 2/4 will be a crotchet, or some people will call it a quarter note. And so what Alan is saying is that note will divide down evenly into 2/8 notes or 2 quavers. Whereas in your 6/8, it will be a dotted crotchet will be your beat note, and a dotted crotchet cannot break down into 2 notes of equal value, so that it's broken down into 3 notes, 3/8 notes. And so that's really the mathematics or the theory behind what Alan's just saying there. It's exactly it. That's brilliant. What you wrote up there, absolutely spot on. So that's what we're getting at there, folks.
Alrighty. So for me, that's the first part of it. I think the other thing we're going to have to focus on a little bit, just so we're all using the same terms as we go through this, is just reaffirming the name of parts of a note, right? So I'm gonna just draw another little line across here, right? And I'm gonna put a couple of slashes through there. I'm talking about us all using the same words, and I just used the wrong one. So looking at this 2/4 bar here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to call out that this is the head of a note. That's the word we're going to use. This is the stem of a note. These lines through the stem, we're going to call those slashes. For some reason, I'd been calling them strikes for many, many years, but it turns out I'm probably the only person using that word, and everybody else uses the word slash. So we'll stick with slashes there. This here, we're going to call a tie, right? Apologies for those. This is all motherhood and apple pie, but just to make sure we're all using the same words here, and I'm not using different ones from you. And there's this here. We're not going to talk about them too much. We're going to call this a beam, where and a beam is where you join the two flags of a note. And I'm just going to take a quick sidebar here and say, if we didn't have a beam, that would be one of these, right? That's a really bad representation handwritten of a flag or a tail on a note, but that's why I tend to use a piece of software to do this for me, because it's much better than my handwriting. And these are musically, they're called flags. You'll hear some people calling them tails as well. But, so that I think is all the dictionary we need to cover here. Anything I've missed? No, I've got all the bits, moving parts, and we know that's a dot on a note. Right? Cool. So that's where I'd start. Really, is just understanding that the tie, and okay, obviously at first glance here, you can see that this first thing here is roll, right? And typically in pipe bands, that would actually be the other way around. Sorry, excuse me being quite finicky here, but I think it's important. If I'm going to relate it to pipe bands, you would typically have that on the left hand when you're doing a roll like that. Am I right? No, I'm wrong. Shall I just undo that and go back to where I was?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And typically in 2/4 for a full beat, you would often see 3 slashes, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You would for here, and we're going to go into why, right? that's going
to be the fun part.
Go into why. So there we go. So I've been in too many Strathspeys where these days they try to cram it onto the other hand there to get a fuller roll sound.
Totally.
So we've got all the bits and pieces we need there. We've got the slashes, and the ties. The tie is typically, that's accepted musically as a curved line that joins together the two notes of the same pitch. So if you're going to really get into music theory, you're going to go, sometimes you'll hear people call it a slur. Let's all call it a tie, right? Because everything on a snare drum is going to be the same pitch. So it doesn't matter if it's a right hand or a left hand. And I know musically pitch normally, is it above the line, below the line, on the line? That determines pitch. Pipe band is an unpitched, the side drum is an unpitched instrument. So we're always going to call that a tie, whether we're going from right hand to left hand to right hand, whether the head of the note is above or below the line. So it's a tie. And that tie, what that really means musically is when you see something like that is to be played in a smooth fashion, right? It's to blend them in together. And that's why when you think about it, that's what we're doing in a roll. We're a very staccato instrument. Everything is on, off, on, off, on, off. There's either sound or there isn't sound coming from your instrument. And what we're doing with the roll is getting that concept of a smooth, continuous sound coming from the instrument. And that's why the tie is the right thing musically for doing this. And I'm not making this stuff up, right? This is derived from some of the greats in pipe band history who settled on this notation for how these different musical annotations can be used to describe what we do in our art form. So the next piece I'm going to talk about then is these slashes. So those slashes, they're actually an abbreviation for repeating notes, right? Just hold that thought for a moment. Each one of those slashes is an abbreviation for something. So that's why sometimes there's 2 and sometimes there's 3. And there's actually a case where there's only 1, right? And we'll hold that thought. Anyone wants to skip ahead? That's the dead stroke, right? Only you're doing a rapid run of maybe paradiddles with a dead stroke in the middle of it all, right? So that's only going to have one slash through it typically, right? And we'll explain why. That's the whole point here. If you can bear with us as we go through this, there's a lot of setup to get to all the bits and pieces here. So so what do we mean by an abbreviation? So it's a form of rolling up, no pun intended, shorter notes, right? So a single slash through a stem means that you play 2 equal notes in the place of that 1, right? So then therefore 2 means it's 4, right? And you see how that progresses from there. And we'll get to how that breaks down into the number of notes shortly that indicate how many buzzes there are in that roll. So what I want to do is break down this a bit further. I'm gonna go for, yeah, let's do it this way. So this, let me take another page up here. Let's clean this up here. And let's get our 2-4 going again here.
While Alan's getting that up there, guys, for the history buffs out there, the notation that we use is a monolinear notation that was developed largely by Fritz Berger in 1928, way back in the day. And Alex Duthert had a lot to do with this coming over into the pipe band realm and how we've adopted this monolinear notation. So for those that want to do a bit of research in that, there's definitely some information out there on Google that can support that.
So what type of roll is that, James?
7-stroke roll.
It's our 7-stroke roll, right? And as we all know, that means we go 3 buzzes and a tap. Why does that make 7? Why do we call that a 7-stroke roll? Well, if we think about each buzz as being a crushed double, that's the key to this. As I said, this is all about all the clues that eventually settle in your mind to make this second nature for translating these things when you see them. Is that if we think of every time we hit a buzz as being a crushed double, we can get to the point where we can start to build the clues together here to build the picture. So I'm just going to go ahead and write that out here, right, on this 7-stroke roll here. And I'm going to go, okay, so if that's a buzz, a double there, that's a double there, that's a double there, that's a double there, and that's my final tap, right? There's all my notes here. I'm going to go, so actually that's probably that many. Yeah, that's what it looks like, isn't it? Exactly. That's fine. That's 7 strokes, right? And if we think of each of those as a buzz, and you're going to see me use the abbreviation for the first time here that we talked about here. So if we say that 1 slash through a stem means play 2 notes 1 step smaller, then each one of those notes there translates into this, where each one of these is now a buzz. But how many beams have we got here? How many flags was it? Well, there was 3 there before. It's now 2, right? And we put a single stroke through a single slash through each one of these stems. We've broken this down, and we've got buzz, 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 tap, 7-stroke roll. That's how we play it. We're supposed to play it in a smooth fashion, aren't we? That's really what that means. That tie across
Fingers
the top,
crossed.
right? So, yeah. Yeah. When we eventually get there, it's very smooth. And then we go, okay. So this still doesn't look like what you've got at the top of the page here. So how's that working out? Also, aren't there too many notes in that beat, right? Let's crack on over here. So our starting point now is we've got buzz, 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 tap, right? And we've got a single slash through each of those, and we've got this tie here. And I'm going to keep with my habit of showing what time signature is. So I've got these buzz, buzz, tap here. There's too many notes in that for a beat, right? Irregular groups. This is the other thing that if we think about pipe band drumming, we've always got that swing going through everything. And that swing is typically by the use of, not everything is a a 1-2, 1-2, we divide that down and give things with just about, you know, in every form of tune we have some form of irregular group. Rolls, here's another clue for you, are typically always an irregular group, right? So that there is a 3. Now, irregular groups, let's just have a sidebar on that for a second. Sometimes we're going to see them written as, let me just do our whole here. I've got my overall tie here, and then there would be one in here called a 3. That's pretty messy, right? And we try never to do nested ties and irregular groups when we're writing music, do we? Oh, right. Yeah. Well, some folks do. Sometimes it's unavoidable. Sometimes you'll see that written as some folks like to do something like that underneath it, right? And occasionally you see that's got brackets with it too. So there are a number of different ways of saying the same thing, depending on how your author is writing the score and laying it out. So that's our starting point here. Now we've now got, musically, this has now got the right number, or musically, arithmetically, there's the right value in that beat, because we've made this 3 in the time of 2. What we're saying is we're playing 3 of those notes in the time of 2 of those notes, i.e. with the two flags. And let's not forget we've subdivided those with the slash on there as well. So we've got our basis of what this looks like now, and we go, right, so nobody ever writes it like that. So we use another form of abbreviation, don't we? Right? We go, okay, let's make this a bit easier. Let's go back to what we're trying to make this look like, which is, apologies for the jumping about here.
Those
trying to make it look like this.
The people who are new to pipe band drumming, I know a lot of drumline players come across in North America and try and jump in on the pipe band drumming stuff, and drum kit players too. So a crushed double that Alan mentioned earlier, essentially you're letting your double, you're taking your double up to a high speed, then you're relaxing and adding a little bit of extra downward pressure to create this buzz sound. So I'm going to put a link in the description below with a full video on how to actually achieve a buzz, rather than us go into that now, but that's what Alan's alluding to.
Perfect, thanks. Yeah, I'm being a bit of a mad professor, jumping all over the place here.
Great, that's awesome.
Deep discussion, but you know, so pull me up when it gets too deep. So this is what we're looking to get to here. Remember, we've got 2 slashes through the stem here for the 7-stroke roll, and there's only a single beam across the bottom. And where we'd got to there is this point here, and we're going, well, how do we abbreviate this further? So I'm just going to do one more on this page, and I'm going to say, remember we said that each slash through a stem means play 2 of the smaller note that makes up that one note, right? 1/8 into a quarter, etc. So if we add this, if we think about what we have at the moment, as, right, there's our bass here. We've got a second line. We've got a strike through here, and still one line down here. We can remove that one line down here. That's the line I'm talking about here. This second line here, right? We can remove that and abbreviate it further by putting a second slash through the stem like that, right? We've still got our 3 in the time of 2, and we're still trying to play it in a smooth fashion there. So we're now getting closer. We've only got a single line at the bottom. Let's get a new page going here. Our target, if you remember, is to look like this. All right, and what we've got, all right, slow down, Alan, write properly. What we've got is messy. So how do we not make our written page of music look like it's so it illegible? You know, if you had all these lines going everywhere, it's going to be really hard to see what's going on the page. So again, convention. We have to take another clue. Remember all those clues I talked about that eventually settle in your mind as being second nature, so you can sight read. The clue here is that if you see this notation at the top here, if you see this notation, and you see the slashes through the stem, and you see the tie, it's a roll. That's the first thing it tells you. It's a roll. It's just a rule. It's a roll. But the second thing to bear in mind is if it's a roll, it's more than likely an irregular group of notes, right? So we abbreviate further, right? One of the best way to explain this is we're effectively saying that this construct is an abbreviation of that construct, right? I think that's the right way to think about that, right?
Yeah, definitely.
It's hard when it's second nature to you. It's really hard to explain sometimes why these things come down. So we've been talking about a lot of abbreviations here. We've been talking about slashes through the stem to abbreviate the number of notes that you need to show and the number of tails there are on those notes. I'm bothered by something I said earlier there. I just want to double check here. Yeah, I think I've gone a little off track here doing this live. Where am I? No, I'm good. No, I'm pretty sure if I was, you'd have caught me anyway, James. It's just I was just double checking back on something I'd said earlier there. Right, so we've got this form of abbreviation we're talking about here, right? The and it's just another rule to follow. If you see a roll, it's an irregular group, right? And if you see a note with two slashes through the stem like that, expand it in your head to a triplet of those. So that becomes buzz, 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 tap, right? And remember, this is all for the 2/4 time signature, right? We're gonna go a bit deeper down the rabbit hole shortly on compound time signatures. But so what we've got effectively is a rule so far, haven't we, that allows us when we see this that says when you see a written roll, assume it's in a regular group of buzzes, right? So you see that one, assume it's 3, right? In this case, right? Because you've got the 2 strikes through the stem. We should probably break down the 2-pace roll, shouldn't we now, and under that same logic, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, to show why there's now 3 slashes when you see the 2-pace roll there in 2/4 time. That's
And
good.
after that, it might be cool if we add in the accent sign and talk about tap rolls and how we look at those and understand them, that abbreviation.
Oh wow, yeah, okay. Sure, right. And I wonder if that's best done now while we've got this.
Yeah, maybe. Outline. Good idea.
Yeah. It's no, I didn't want to undo all of that. Okay, let's just.
Because often when people see an accent sign above that first buzz, that right hand buzz, they often assume that means to hit a heavy roll, an accented roll. When I grew up, I was told they were accented 7s, but upon consulting other people and traveling, I came to know them as 6-stroke rolls. And that really helped because you don't always need to accent a tap roll. And so if we put the accent sign on there, it simply means that we're playing for the first stroke. Instead of having your right buzz, we're actually playing a right tap. And often if you were doing an accented tap roll, the notation I've seen is that down V, that downstroke accent.
Yeah. Well, come, I'll show those then. So let's first, so what you said there about being a 6-stroke roll triggered something to me, and it's kind of like, okay, so this is a 7-stroke roll because we've thought of every buzz as a tap, as every buzz as 2 taps, a double, right? So 2, 4, 6, 7 on the center, on the center line here. So what if we just had 1 here? Why are we still removing things? Cool. We've only got a single one there that's not crushed, and it's actually probably, keep me right here, James.
Yeah, spot on.
It's probably more like that, isn't it? Yeah, in terms of the subdivisions there, right?
Yeah.
And in terms of how we bring it
And
down.
we probably still
So-
have the regular grouping over this, right?
It's still an irregular grouping, right?
Yeah.
In the sense that as we then take the progression from here, and we say that this this is still played in as a triplet. It's 3 in the time of 2, right?
Totally.
Which is why that's 1, that's 2, and that's 3, right? In terms of the groupings there. Let me just call that out there. 1, 2, 3. That's your 3 in the time of 2, right? And the 2 is this, right? That's the value. These have been subdivided further. So you've got this notation here, and if you think if we were to then skip forward to our conclusion here, if these are not all buzzes anymore, right? They can't be, right? But you've still got some abbreviations involved here. If this is hard to explain, this one. If we say this isn't there, but it is in fact, here we go. But it is in fact a smaller note. Oops. To grips with the technology here. It's probably actually, if we're going to be really finicky about it, going to be written like that. And that's pretty horrendous breakdown. You can't be seeing that, right? So we have an abbreviation again. If we put a little regular chevron above the note there, like that, that sort of says, yeah, this is a triplet, but by the way, the first one's not a buzz, right? That's kind of how it is in my head. You've still got the triplet feel, but the first one's not a buzz. So we have to do something to differentiate, because you do not want to be looking at that on your page of music, you know, on a very busy score when you're trying to sight read, right? So we already got the abbreviation for a roll that's all buzzes, buzz, 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 tap. If it's to be tap, buzz, buzz, tap, then we indicate, well, by the way, we use the accent sign there. And as you're right, James, it's misleading calling it an accent sign, right? Because there's literally 2 types of accent you can be thinking about here. There's one that just says, by the way, this isn't a buzz, this is a tap. And you know that that's what's being applied here because there are slashes through the stem. And again, these are just rules to remember. I hadn't even thought of that variation of this track we're talking about here, about, you know, the tap roll rather than the full through buzz roll. And the other, well, we'll finish in blue here. The other one that we're talking about is this one. It's got a fancy musical name for that downward facing V there. It's like a big V above your note, right? And that is in regular music terms what's known as an accent, right? That means it's to be played heavier. This one that we have in pipe bands doesn't really feature in regular music, right? Even though I grew up with it, meaning it is an accent as well, right? When I was taught drumming, it's an accent. This has been relatively new to me, right, over the last well, it's going to be decades now. But but I was never taught that as a kid learning to drum. For me, an accent was always the chevron there above the note head. Excuse me.
For those who are checking this out and are really into the theory of it, I'm actually going to pop a link to an article down in the description. It's an article that Alan wrote on Medium, and it's around the roll side of things, understanding roll. So I'm going to pop that in if you really want to get into the nitty gritty. That'll really help and guide you that direction.
Yeah, that's fantastic. You know, it's great us talking about it here, and we're riffing a little bit backwards and forwards and different things. And I realize that can be sometimes that's hard to follow, right? Doing my best, right? But that can be hard to follow for people, you know, watching on a video. But this is written down. Everything we're talking about here is written down and it comes to a set of easy to follow rules at the bottom. So thanks for including that link there. I don't cover the tap roll piece. This is what I mean. We're going riffing off each other, going into different tangents here, but and just getting it and trying to get it right. But there we go. That's on there. So I'm thinking, what was the other piece you wanted to talk about? Tap rolls, and what was the other one?
So the couple things I'd written down there was just understanding the other key roles in, say, simple time. So if we looked at, we've got the 7-stroke roll there, but also if we looked at the 5-stroke roll and how that shows up. So we can look at the short 5-stroke roll, and we can look at the dot cut 5-stroke roll. Like if we look at, say, a mass band setting. So for a long time, the North American mass band settings were so they had long 5-strokes and short 5-stroke rolls. So it'd be quite interesting just to look at the breakdown. And obviously the long 5-stroke roll, or the dot cut, what you just wrote out as a 7-stroke roll, has the same rhythmic structure, right? But we just abbreviate it differently.
Yeah, it's interesting. Okay, you got me thinking. It's definitely getting the grey matter going this morning. We got, so let's stick with a straight 5-stroke roll. First of all, right?
It might not be an irregular
no
group, right?
Well,
it might be an exception.
I don't know. Let's work it out. Let's see where we get to. I don't know the answer to that question. Let's work it out and see where we get to. So if I'm going to have a 5-stroke roll, I'm just trying to. These are going to be does that right? Am I in the right place? Is that what we're talking about?
Yep. And so if you join, I guess, join both of those underneath, both rolls with a beam underneath. So essentially what you're playing there is ta, 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 1 E and a 2 is ta, ta.
Yeah, and just for the music buffs as well, I joined. Beaming is one of these things that has another a set of styles associated with it. You'll find a lot of pipe band drummers, when if we look at this technically, that should be written as, let's make sure I fill in those note heads.
Yeah.
Right. And what you'll find in pipe bands often is that where a note breaks down on its, remember we talked about in 2/4 time, things breaking down onto primary subdivision, it divides by 2, right? So what we've got is 2 groups here, right? And to aid with the visual breakdown of that, when you see long runs of smaller notes, you often find folks adopting this abbreviation of flattening the break between the what's called the primary subdivisions, the subdivisions of the note there. It divides into 2. They flatten that beam to just be 1 beam. Legally, it should be 2, right? And I'm not going to mention his name, but there is a leading drummer of a very well-known pipe band in Scotland in grade 1 who always does this, even if it's like 8 notes on the beat there. He's not going to break it down. He keeps it flat. For him, and the way he was brought up and the way he interprets the written music, and therefore now his core do, is that they don't want these shortcuts, right? They don't need these visual clues that you get from flattening the beat there. So I just kind of wanted to explain why I did that there, for those who are kind of, again, following on with the theory. Technically speaking, there should be 2 beams through the whole lot there, but we break it down. So another sidebar done. Let me remove those. Actually, this might be quicker. There we go. Right, so we're back to where we are. Sidebar gone. Right, we have 2 5-stroke rolls there. Each 5-stroke roll starting on the first one on the beat and the first on the half beat. Right. So we've got, there's the beat. There's the beat note, there's the half beat, and there's your beat note again here, right? So let's decompose these then, right, as we did before. So let's take this first 5-stroke roll here. What we said was really that was a buzz, and a tap, right? And I'm have exploded the doubles out, right, to where they should be. Now, well, there's definitely that. And there's definitely that. Sorry, I've got a dog pawing at me here. Can I have
Come
a bit
and join the
peace for a
fun.
minute? Yeah. Seriously, she does want to join the tunnel. No, leave my cup of tea alone. Apologies for this other sidebar distraction here.
I love it.
Go on.
And for those who are thinking about, again, that are new to buzz strokes, just that when you see or hear a buzz stroke, that's the equivalent of thinking of 2 taps, right? So Alan's mentioned that already, but when we're playing a double, that when we're breaking a buzz down, we think of 2 taps. That's how we're adding it up. And that's why you see Alan on the second line has written double, double, tap, right, 2 taps on the right, 2 taps on the left, 1 tap on the right. Okay, so that's how we break it down and play the open roll. That's how we play the open roll.
Now, I think, gosh, do we do that? Is that the right number now?
Yep.
1 too many. No, that's the right number. So I think what we've seen is this is an irregular group, right? That is 3 notes played in a time of 2, isn't it?
So the second line, so if you go to the third line, actually, so the third line, the way I interpret it would be that you'd have all 3 notes would have 16th beams, and then the first 2 notes would have, am I doing this right? Dig it up, 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 dig it up. So I'm just trying to make sure. So if we look at the 5-stroke roll on the first line, so the 5-stroke roll on the first line ends on the E, or what one E, whereas on the third line we've got it ending on the A. Does that make sense?
Move this line for now. Let's see, just make sure we've got the second one right. Yeah, so we got whoever said this was easy, right? And it's second nature to everyone is, when it gets down to this level, it's not, right? You're working stuff out, right, all the time.
Totally.
Especially when you're writing it. Reading it's different. Reading it's second nature, right? But eventually, but writing it, it really is a lot of arithmetic here.
Totally, and it's all comes down to math, I guess. It's the tricky part of it. So what we've written on the second line there, the last note of that 5 is ending on the upbeat, but if we go as what we're seeing on the first line, yeah, exactly what you've done there. That makes sense.
Yeah, you're right. No, let me just tidy that up. Again, why I use computers to do my writing for me instead of my handwriting.
I get it.
so we've broken it down like that. You're absolutely right. Correct. The point we were getting to was that this is a triplet now, right? So we've actually got, well, if we complete that line that we had above there, we've got 2 triplets, and then you've got your tap here that we had. So you've got your, and again, that musically completing the notation, you should join that along the bottom there if you want this flattened style that we see a lot in pipe band drumming. Really in regular music, oops, I'm not sure what I did there. Let's go back there. That should be joined as well. You should always join as many of the flags as you can across the bottom there. My preference is that, because just from a sight reading perspective, it helps you see the structure of the score better for me.
Right, if you're reading at speed, and if you go along to a summer school, so I had the fortune to teach at lots of summer schools, and sometimes you give it a drum score and you want the entire class to play it. When you break it up, as you can see there on the second line, people can easily define where the downbeat and the upbeat is. And so in terms of reading, it chunks things on our subconscious mind and our conscious mind. They appreciate things in little chunks of 2 or 3. So this really helps the reading speed for sure.
You actually just made me think of something there. That's actually the downbeat. Yeah, I should have done that arrow the other way on the first line there.
I see.
So, were you talking about the downbeat being the second? For you, is the downbeat the half beat?
So for me, the downbeat's the very first note. So that's the start of the downbeat with
the other way around.
Down.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And then the upbeat's the halfway point between the 2 downs.
See, this is great. I'm coming on here and learning. Down, up, down. There we go. Yeah, it makes sense actually when you think about it, doesn't it? Yeah.
Just where the old
foot goes down, your foot comes up. Yep.
Totally.
So So there we've said that even for a 5-stroke roll here, as we've explored this, we've seen that it's an irregular group still, right? So the rules still hold. You see this structure, there's an irregular group involved for the 5-stroke roll here. And the rest of the progression is the same. Each one of these becomes a single each one of these becomes a single note, right? And we've got the buzzers through them there, and then of course you take that to its full logical progression. It looks like that with 2 buzzers through it. Sorry, just crammed that on the page there, which is why. And you would, all right, I've just confused myself there. Let me take that out. Talking about working it out live. So if we compress this down, what we're saying is we always have that, and then we want to split this in 2. Is that right here?
Yes. So the way I think of that is the right tap and the left tap. I would make those 30-second notes.
Which is why they're. Yeah.
And then put the buzz stroke through. Yeah.
Anyway, and then we abbreviate it to something we all recognize, knowing that is the yes, that's correct. Because we've split it down twice there to get as low as we need to, because the buzz is actually 2 strokes, right? So we've abbreviated it down. Yeah, I think what I'll do is I'll do a follow-up written article to the one that I've done, because I use
we'll put it in the description as well.
The example, yeah. And so I'll write a follow-up article. I broke down the 7-stroke roll, and it's all written down and very clear on the paper there to follow this for those who like to read and study that way. I'll do a follow-up article which is on the 5-stroke roll as well, where I'm not working out this stuff on the fly, and then we'll move on now to the 2-pace roll, right, in 2/4 time. Yeah,
let's do it.
That'll be the next one. All right, so we're going to start with our usual structure now. Yes, we usually do it this way, don't we? So there's your 2 beats in the bar, the 2/4, and what we've said is we want it to be a smooth line across there. And then we go, right, well, how many slashes do we have through the stem then for this? Now, convention, those of us who've been around a while will know that's going to be 3. Why is it 3, right? Why is there 3 on this one? And why was there, if we go back to our 7-stroke roll, why is there 2 there? It's because it's longer, isn't it, right? Yeah, that's true. You can think about it like that as a rule of thumb. It's because it's longer. But it's really important to understand the rules here if you're going to start writing 2 2s, right, in real time, and thinking about how long a 2-pace roll is there and how you notate that. Are you going to have 3 slashes through that stem in 2/2 time? There we go. There's a quiz for someone who wants to take it away as homework. I know the answer to that, right? And if we think about why 2/2 time exists, 2/2 time is often known as cut common time, and it's it's from when there used to be so many notes in a. Let me get this the right way around. Because if you were to write it in 2/4 time, you would have so many dots on the page, it would have been illegible. So 2/2 is typically a faster beat, and so you'd be trying to cram too many notes into bars, and it'd be too busy on the notes. So trying to recall this article I read about this. So if you think about it, 2/2 is typically a reel for us, right? Which is a little bit faster than a march, right? And it means that you haven't got as busy a looking page when the score gets faster. That's the rule of thumb that I keep in my mind around that one. That's why 2/2 exists. 2/2 time exists like that, cut common time. And there's and there's a whole sidebar on why it's called common time and cut common time as well. But maybe we shouldn't go down that arcane.
That's for our next conversation. Right? I love
it. It's all to do with the Holy Trinity, but we'll leave it at that for now, right?
I love it.
It's back to the monks and their music. Yeah, I know I'm sounding like a mad professor now. Let's go. So let's break this down then. So we say how many buzzers are in that roll, James?
So we've got 6 buzzers and then 1 tap to finish. And for those who are new to this, like this is totally new, please know that when I first seen that roll, I did not know, I had no clue how many buzzers were in that roll. That comes from just understanding this abbreviation, right?
Right. So what's the best way to describe this? So we always said it's an irregular group, right? There's definitely an irregular group involved if there's a roll sign, right? And again, we're seeing that there is here, right? Because remember what we said in 2/4 time, each note breaks down, it divides by 2. Well, hang on a minute, we got 6 here now. Where's my middle of my note here? It's here. Okay. Oh look, we're playing 3 in the time of 2 on each side of that, right? So we've got an irregular group again already. So somewhere in here we're probably going to need to write that. And I know we're just restating what we've been through multiple times now, but the reason for, actually no, I shall take that back. It is worth doing this because we're explaining why there's 3 here, right? Or at least we're going to try. So if we then break that down further, we know each. What's the right way to annotate this at the moment? So they are definitely. Yes, 3 in the time of 2. That's correct. Keep me right, James. Yep.
Yep. So we would have there'd be 16th note triplets.
And we're now going to, of course, if we're saying each of those is actually, 2, aren't we? Right? Because we remember what we said, that a buzz is a crushed double, right? And so therefore they all just got smaller too, right? All right.
And they would be 32nd notes, so they'd be 3 beams once you turn into doubles. Yeah.
Yep. There we go. Yeah. Sorry, I had them the first time. So that should have been that in the first place, right?
That's it.
There we go. And so if we think of each one of these slashes through the stem as being an abbreviation for 2 notes, if we remove one of these lines here, that would be 1 line through there. If we want to remove the second line, I don't know if this is a better way to explain it, you therefore need 2 of these lines. If you want to remove the line at the bottom completely, to 3 of them. Oh, come on, Alan. Operate the technology properly. You need 3 of them through the line there, right? Because you have the number of slashes always has to equal the number of beams there would have been, right? It's the other rule of thing. I'm sure I've got that written down a page. The number of flags on the note plus the number of slashes tell you the number of flags on the shorter notes. I'm just reading that as a rule and thinking that's really hard to understand the way I've written that. Okay, but that is actually what it is. They will always equal the number of slashes there will always equal the number of beams that you're abbreviating from.
That makes so much sense when you explain it like that visually. It makes a lot of sense. And if anybody's struggling with that, comment below. At any point in the video, guys, if there's anything you need clarification on, just comment below, and myself or Alan will come back at some point and engage with you.
Yeah, I think it's going to be happy to help offline. I think it's probably becoming clear here. I'm a music geek. James is a great educator, right? and hopefully between the 2 of us here, we can help get this across.
Oh, that's brilliant. I think we're both geeking out right now. We're loving it.
Yeah, I didn't mean to say you weren't a geek, but there we go. So we've covered now the 7-stroke roll breakdown, the 5-stroke roll, and the 2-pace rolls here, which we I keep calling them 2-pace rolls. We do 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. How many strokes are in a 2-pace roll?
You know, that would be, so if you think about
13. Yeah.
It's a 13-stroke roll, yeah, and the 2-pace roll is absolutely accurate. You know, it's some people then will go into the next book, which would be your 3-pace roll. So this would definitely be a 2-pace roll. Most people call it a 13. And then for those that are going, what if we put the accent on the front or that accent sign? Well, that turns it into a 12-stroke roll. A tap, 5 buzzes, and a tap. So that's how we go about when we see that accent sign. We know that it's going to take it from a 12 to a 13 to a 12, or it's going to take it from a 7 to a 6, or a 5 to a 4.
Yeah, And as we proved last time around, it doesn't change the number of slashes through the stem just because you put the accent on it, right? It's still a number of subdivisions in the irregular group. You have to expand the irregular group, and there's no way to differentiate at that point. So that's what the accent gives us there. Okay, cool. Right, before we tackle compound time, I am going to have some water.
Yes, do it. Me too. And I was going to ask one question. So if we change that time signature to 4/4 and it was a Strathspey, so these 2/4s are generally around that 75 to 85 beats per minute. But if this was a Strathspey and it was up, still quarter note as being the base beat note, but we were up around that 110 to 120 beats per minute, and we had a beat to beat roll, so quarter note roll. Now that would be a 9-stroke roll, so 4 buzzes and a tap. Would that be regular? I'm just trying to think in my head.
Let's work it out. Yeah, let's go for it.
Because I'm sure some smart Alec will work it out and comment below.
Yeah, before I've worked out here. Yeah, and that's fine, right? But if we're in a 4/4 here, right? So our beats are. I'm just going to put them all on the right hand for now. Right. That's almost like a 3D bar, isn't it?
Love it.
And you want to roll from here to here.
Yep.
How many of these do we have? That's a great point. So I'm in a Strathspey time here now, and I think I'd like at this point. There's definitely a consideration for Strathspey time here, because what you just said there, absolutely buzz, 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 tap, right? And I sort of 2-pace roll in Strathspey time. There's a lot of scores and a lot of authors want an extra buzz in there, right?
Yes,
it's really common in Strathspeys to see you go from right to left hand on a buzz roll from there to get a fuller sound, right? And this is why we've got all these rules, right? But if you can, ask the author what they intended, right?
Definitely.
If you can, that's not always possible if you've got a 1936 drum score that was written, right? to find the author and ask them. But there is a judgment call that's going to have to be made at some point. When you see this go from right to right, rule of thumb, 4 buzzers in the tap, 4 buzzers in the tap. If you see it go right to left, is this intended to be played at 160 beats per minute? In which case you remove a buzz, right? Or is it, a little looser down at 105 beats, and you need to put the extra buzz in? Some common sense has to kick in at that point, I think, right?
Right.
If you can't ask the author, you got to ask yourself what's practical, right? That's if we're trying to decode this score that we've seen and as how many buzzes do I do, right? Well, if it goes right to right and it's Strathspey time and it's 4/4, remember it's adding up the clues, right? And as I said, this becomes second nature when you become a sight reader. You see the clues, you add up, and your brain instantly translates for you, right? It's going right to right. I'm in Strathspey time. How fast is the beat? Right? You've gone right to left. Am I supposed to be putting an extra buzz in or taking a buzz out? Right? That typically, if it's a Strathspey, your brain's going to go, I'm putting an extra one in, right? For the kind of speeds they're played at, because again, just a rule of thumb that you have to remember that help you with these things. But we can break down the theory. Let's do the theory now and see if we've got an exception to the irregular group rule here. I think we might have here, right? I think we might have in Strathspey time.
Often, Alan, whether it's right or not, a lot of authors, composers tend to put 3 slash marks through a beat to beat roll, right to right. But let's look at how that breaks down. And is there an argument that we should be writing it as you've written it there on the first line?
Yeah, and there's definitely a question mark there because we're going to prove it one way or the other here, right?
Yes, great.
That's because I'm actually going into this discussion with no preconceived idea, right, as to which it should be. So we'll see where we come out at the end of this particular tunnel. So this is what we're doing. Really, we're breaking it down. That would be obviously broken down like that. Correct? Yeah.
100%.
So and if we just think of those as taps instead of buzzes, tap, 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 tap. Yep. And there's nothing irregular about that at all, right? If we add in, remember crushed double equals buzz, of course that gets the next line through it there. We're going right. I'm still not seeing anything irregular in this at all, am I? So we're just into abbreviations now.
Yep.
So the clue here is, yeah, it's all about adding up the clues when you see them at the start of it. Always go into it thinking there's an irregular number of buzzes, right? And then you've got the exceptions to the rule, right? So one of those things in life, you know, there's a rule and then there's always an exception to the rule, right? So always start by thinking is going to be irregular. Hopefully you're getting a chance to see the score before you have to play it. Putting a score in that somebody's not seen in front of somebody and asking them to play it straight off the bat, that's a really experienced reader that can do that, right? It's not impossible. We see a lot of people do it, but it's hopefully you get a chance to work this stuff out in advance before you're expected to play it.
A couple of those clues, if I jump in there for a second, those kind of telltale signs that can help you. One, time signatures are important, but two, what type of tune is it? Oh, okay, it's a Strathspey. Okay, so what do I know about Strathspeys? Okay, I know they're going to be at least 30 beats per minute faster than a march. So I'm going to be up tempo. Okay, that means I've got a lot less space between each beat. Right. So it might mean I'm playing less notes in there. So add up all these different clues that can then help you to distinguish what kind of role might exist there, what kind of rhythm you're going to play.
That's said so much better than I can. Well done. That's a great explanation. I got that. So what we're doing with the theory here. Why is this dog bugging me? Hey, come on. Leave me alone.
Wants to join in. Come on, buddy.
Wait, do you want to come up? You want to come up and say hello to everyone? There we go. Look, here she is. Yeah.
Hey, gorgeous.
There we go. Look, there we go.
Star of the show right there.
Star of the show. Right now, can I have, you've said hello, you've had your cuddle, off you go. Bye-bye.
My two are sleeping. It's 10:45 at night, so hopefully they stay asleep.
Oh, wow. Yeah. It's very late at night on a Friday for you to be doing this kind of
This is pure joy. These are the conversations I love, Alan.
So here we go. What are we doing here? Yeah, we're going to try and work out how many slashes based on the rules that we've derived here should be through that stem there, right? And we've said it's an abbreviation. Again, I think if we think of the rule, I said that the number of slashes must equal the number of beams. We're coming to 3 as being the answer here.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we're abbreviating all of these notes. We're abbreviating. I'm just gonna do this one more time. So we had that, right? And if you want to abbreviate that, yeah, so we have that effectively, right? That's what we have at the moment, buzz, 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 tap. So if we want to abbreviate and remove this line, we have to put another slash there. If we want to abbreviate further, we do that.
And a slash on that left one as well.
Yeah, sorry. That's the next beat.
Another tap on a right tap.
Oh gosh, yeah, I'm back in 7-stroke. And this dog, look, I'm going to lock you out if you're going to be like this. One more sec. Go, come on, out.
I love it.
Out, go on. I'm back. What a nuisance. There we go.
So good.
Yeah, sorry, I'm actually, it's worse than that, James. I'm actually missing a complete note here, right?
That's it, the left. Yeah.
There we go. And then we've got our beat note for the next beat, which doesn't have a hook on the bottom there. Gosh, my handwriting. So there we in order to abbreviate properly, we've proven that in 4/4 time for Strathspey, we still have three slashes through the stem there, right? It would be 2/2, I think, where we would be looking at less, right?
Yep, that makes sense.
Yep. And we can go down that rabbit hole if we want, but I was hoping to stick to 2/4 and 6/8 as the time signatures as we
I think it's probably a really good time to segue across over and look at the compound time and look at the 6/8. Is there anything else you want to add there before we do that?
I don't think so. I think we can. Yeah, if 2-2, if 2-2 becomes if real time becomes a question for folks, we can do a short segment on that, right? But let's go for the compound times just now. Let me just drive this technology again. Right, here's where we started. Okay, so with compound time, we have to consider that the note breaks down into 3 naturally, right? There are unnatural ways to make it break into other ones, but naturally it breaks into 3, right? So the way we want to look at that is that let's take so we did, yeah. Let's take a jig, right? Let's there's an empty page. Let's take a jig.
So for people that are thinking jig, okay, so right away, likely it's going to be a 6/8, but it could be a 9/8 or 12/8, but likely a 6/8. And tempo wise, similar to your Strass bass, up around your 110 to 125 beats per minute.
I'm going to get this right. Is that right?
That's it.
Oh, I've just done what I see a lot of people doing, and it's not a Z, it's 2 slashes through the stem. We'll talk about Zs in a minute. Yeah, so if we break this down again, then from in the way that we've done before, what have we got here? We've got what is an 11-stroke roll in jig time here. Why? Again, let's do that. 6/8. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 coming on to the last one here. Let's just get these guys with some stems. And well, let's have a think about this for a minute. Let's make each one of those the brains going. It's getting the brains going. So effectively, what we've got here is 5 movements here, right? So just to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right, you got your 5 movements here coming onto your 6th, which is your note here. Right, and what we're saying is that really that should be that. If there was these doubles here,
they're all evenly spaced when we play them.
Yeah, and that's why we have the tie across the top to say make it smooth, right? But we just said that a 6/8 it breaks down in 3 notes, and I'm only seeing 5 there. I can't divide 5 by 3 naturally, right? So what I'm doing is I'm playing 5 notes, 5 notes. I'm playing in the time of 6. Right?
Hang on,
there's an important
that's a game changer.
It is. So if we've only learned about 2/4s and triplets, we're playing 3 in the time of 2, right? We're expecting the notation when we see a number to say, oh, it's that many played and maybe 1 less. It's not true. Actually, you could have a stretched irregular group, which is what this is in this case. I'm using the term stretched. I'm not sure if that's a musical standard, because you're playing 5 in the time of 6. You're having to make them a bit longer, right? 3 in the time of 2, you're making those 3 notes shorter, right? So irregular groups can make something longer or shorter. That's the additional piece of music theory to add in here. Now, you say, how am I supposed to know whether that's 5 in the time of 4 or 5 in the time of 6? Or how do I know if it's stretched or not? Again, it's the clues around you. You're in an irregular, you're in a compound time signature here, right? And you've got to play 5, and you've got to make them fit the beat there, right? It doesn't divide into 4; it divides by 3. If this was a 2/4, that would be 5 in the time of 4, right? Because your note breaks down evenly into 2s and 4s. Compound time, it breaks down into 3s, 6s, and 9s, right? So that 5 has to be 5 in the time of 6. Now, there is a form of traditional music notation where they actually write that as a ratio, 5 in the time of 6, and your triplet would be written as 3 in the time of 2, and that would be very helpful. I agree.
That's actually really helpful. Totally.
That is how it's there's a lot of older, more traditional music is written like that, right?
That's brilliant.
And again, we abbreviate, right? And we abbreviate based on context. Again, is it compound time? Is it simple time? How should my note be subdividing naturally, right? So should this be in 4 or should this be in 6? 6 is a subdivision of compound time, whereas 4 isn't. It's a natural subdivision. So we have to have 5 in the time of 6. And I think the rest of it really flows from there, pretty much like the rest of the conversations we've been having here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right, and if we put one line through it and one's, oh, look at me getting really sloppy here. Right, in fact, I'm just going to do this all again. Right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then your beat note, which I'm going to abbreviate. We all know what that means, don't we? And I've got, now each one of these is a buzz. And if we remember on the previous page where we'd got to, that we were talking that each one of these was a buzz. There we go. So you've got your 5 buzzes in the time of 6, which is 5 doubles, so literally 10 notes in that sense there. And we've abbreviated that. We've still got the 5 here. Oh, look at me.
The natural go-to, isn't it? Here. We do so much during the time of 6.
So much, yeah. My brain was saying one thing and my hand did something else. Does that ever happen when you're playing as well? Yeah.
Often.
I call them senior moments when I get there. So we've got, again, if we think about a rule we had before, the number of, you add up the number of slashes and the number of beams, they must come to the same. So how do we abbreviate that further? We abbreviate that as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. If we take one of those lines away, we have to have 2 through here. What happens if we want to take that bottom one away?
Put another one through.
3. All right. And that brings us back to find the right page, Alan. That takes us back to that one. Nope, I've lost my page. Sorry, we've gone in so many different dimensions here. I've lost my page. There it is. So let's go back to where I was there. We'd got to the point where we'd said it was 3. We have to get the 3 slashes through the stem, which brings us back to this must be, therefore, 3 slashes through the stem there in 6/8 time as well.
That is so good.
Again,
and honestly, for many years, and I've been fortunate to sit with some great players and performers and teachers, that has never been explained quite like that. And so when you and I got chatting about this in the last month, and you brought this to the table, I was like, this makes sense. This is spot on. So I'm really excited for that to get out into the world and people to understand what the 2 strokes and the 3 strokes or slashes or what did you call them? You had another word?
Slashes. I've been calling them strikes for many years, but the reality, the whole world calls them slashes. So yeah, we should conform, right? Let's
do it. Yeah, so
this is a lingua franca. It's supposed to be a common language, isn't it? Yeah.
That's right. That's powerful. I think there's a lot more conversation for us to have. And I know we're about to wrap up tonight, but I think there's going to be more conversations. And I'm actually planning to put together a couple of short modules on 5s, 7s, 9s, 13s, and rolls over the beat and all these things. So I think you and I can work in conjunction with some of those and answer some of those questions.
Yeah, no, that'd be fantastic. And this, I realize that this might make logical sense to to an experienced player, the way we've talked through it here. And I completely get that if somebody's new to this or new to this discipline, They're either going to have to watch this video a couple of times and pick out the bits. So you breaking it down into smaller learning modules, I think would be absolutely really useful in that sense.
Yeah, I'll definitely do that. And when I've done them, I'll pop them in as links in the description below as well. I'll pop you links to a playlist. I'll create a playlist on the channel here. But just a couple of reminders. First of all, please do go and check out Drum Score Editor. Alan has dedicated many years to it and is constantly iterating and updating and supporting people with using it. It's a fantastic software for writing snare drum music. So please go check that out. The link is in the description. Hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. And also, if you want to take a chance to go and check out the pipe band drumming innercircle.com, I'll put the link in there. You can check that out. But Alan, is there anything else you want to add just before we wrap up?
No, I really enjoyed getting to the answers here, right? Firstly, working it out to write the article in the first place, trying to pull together many years of playing and writing and reading music to be able to actually see a vein of logic through it all as to how it all hangs together. So I'm excited about sort of developing at this to make it easier to understand for folks. It's still pretty raw, as much of our conversation has been for me in terms of how this all hangs together, but I'm excited to see how it all just hangs together after many years of being involved in pipe band drumming.
Oh, it's brilliant what you do. And I think you and I can continue to distill this together. And the article is golden. I took some time to read it, and I'll put that right below as well as a link. Please go and see the article if you're keen to understand when you look at a pipe band drum roll, what it makes sense and why is it like this and what's the logic. That article explains so much, and you can step through it in your own time. So I'll make sure and pop it down. So Alan, thank you so much for taking time out on your Friday morning. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to chat about anything to do with pipe band drumming any time of day.